The Kariba story you are about to see was photographed, recorded and edited by Ian and Hilda Shand. Kariba Gorge was recognized as a possible dam site by David Livingstone and was briefly investigated by several people, including the then Director of Irrigation, P.H. Haviland. With the formation of the Federation, it became urgent for more power to be provided, and serious investigations were carried out to determine the best site in the gorge, of which there appeared to be three possibilities. In the event, a fourth site, known as Site X, a short distance down the gorge, was chosen by the then Director, Roy Roberts, for full investigation by surveys and drilling. It was said that if you want record floods, you should start construction of a major dam. Kariba was no exception. I think the river god Nyamanyami must have added his bit. In the first year of construction, there was a double peak to the main flood, the first on record since 1907, when records of flow of the Zambezi River were started by C.L. Robertson, the first Director of Irrigation. Then in 1956-57 rainy season, there was an all-time record flood which put the North Bank Cofferdam under water. Finally, in the 1957-58 rainy season, there occurred what we called a six-gate flood. It was so enormous that what it did not put under water, it washed away. Both bridges, the site offices, roads, and a lot of the original sides and bed of the river. This resulted in the redesign of the dam to incorporate 6 gates instead of the original 4. The dam itself is an arched dam 2,025 foot long, rising 420 feet above the riverbed. In the center, the section is 65 foot thick at its maximum, tapering to 43 feet at the crest. 6 spillways are provided, 90 foot below operating level, each 30 foot by 29 foot to discharge 336,000 cusecs. 6 100 megawatt generators were installed in the South Bank powerhouse, and further generators to give 900 megawatts in the North Bank powerhouse, so that a total of 2 million horsepower is required. The dam formed a lake 175 miles long, stretching nearly up to the Decker River mouth, with a maximum width of 20 miles and a surface area of 2,000 square miles. The volume of water stored up to normal operating level is 130 million acre feet, although only the top 36 million acre feet will be used to produce power. Let us now go to the full story of the construction of Kariba Dam from the time the consultants, Messrs. Gibcoin and Soji, came out to inspect the site and review the investigatory work that had already been carried out. The consultants flew down from Harare in March 55 to the Karae landing ground, where they were picked up by jeep and taken down the Hunter's Track to the upstream end of the Kariba Gorge. Unfortunately, there had been heavy rains, and the 3-tonners with all the camping equipment on board bogged down. The party was forced to proceed by jeep with only the minimum of equipment and food. On the way, they stopped for a lunch break, and we see the essential equipment being transferred to the jeeps. And having lunch, Monsieur Coyne, Monsieur Martin, and Mr. Roberts. On arrival, we all went down to see the river coming down in flood. Looking downstream, dam site X is approximately opposite the sharp peak in the center of the picture now. A conference was held at the old drillers' camp to review the results of work carried out to date. Evening on the river was quite beautiful. On the trip back, this was one of the many sticky patches we hit. The party flew back to Harare, and here we see them embarking at Kariba aerodrome, and then disembarking at Harare. Sir Malcolm Barrow, Monsieur Tisney, who passed away shortly after these pictures were taken, Monsieur Martin, Mr. Roberts, and Monsieur Coyne. From here we go back to the dam site 20 months later. Access to the bed of the river, where excavations were being carried out, was still by way of a one-way track down which the tippers had to back. Rock breaking at the site was still being carried out by hand. And loaded into the tippers by dragline. One bulldozer only was working in the bed of the river to stockpile the rock excavated. A temporary powerhouse had been established on the south bank, consisting of a bank of diesel-driven generators, but because of the excessive heat, the radiators had to be sprayed constantly with cold water. Drilling was underway on the downstream Cofferdam of the South Bank diversion tunnel prior to blasting it away. A general view of the site shows the North Bank Cofferdam well underway, with the wings of the secondary Cofferdam to go into the center already in place. In the background can be seen the road and footbridges under construction. Work had progressed well on the African housing site and on the works area on the South Bank, where the main powerhouse, stores and maintenance facilities were being established, together with the main consultants' offices and transformer station overlooking the dam site. Flying over the dam site, we see the North Bank Cofferdam in place, the bridges partly constructed, and the maze of roads and ancillary works that were required. First viewing it from upstream, and then from downstream. Nearby was VHF Hill, the highest roundabout, from which radio communication was maintained with the main telephone exchange in Harare. Along the crest of the hills overlooking what will be Kariba Lake, the main township, known as Kariba Heights, had been established. At that time, Lion's Den was the end of the railway line, and all equipment and materials had to be transported from there by road to Kariba. By the following month, a temporary small batching plant had been established on the south bank. The powerhouse offices were complete, and work was underway on the underground power station. The temporary batching plant consists of the cement storage bins on the right, a loading tower to the octobin at the top on the left, which is fed the various grades of aggregate and sand via a conveyor belt. Side tippers were used to shift the rock from the underground power station. The road bridge is now being used. The debris from the blast from the diversion tunnel is being removed by dragline. And here they are preparing a block for the placing of the next level of concrete. This is done with a high pressure jet of air and water. The concrete from the temporary batching plant is transported by bin, picked up by crane, and dropped into the prepared box. How easily an accident can happen. Watch the workman walk under the bucket as it is dropped. The time factor was serious, and the bin had to be hammered to make the concrete run, then vibrated into position, and any aggregate that separated out had to be put back into the concrete. By January 1957, the early floods had arrived and had nearly reached the first blocks poured. And the North Bank Cofferdam was complete except for the breaching sections at the top. By the 21st of January, the flood was lapping the blocks and the breaching sections were in place. Work continued on excavation of the foundations for the main dam inside the North Bank Cofferdam, and drilling was being carried out against the base of the wall to grout it onto the bedrock. In mid-March 1957, the highest flood on record peaked at the dam site, having flooded the North Bank Cofferdam. Little other damage was done, and even the cables lying across the river did not break in spite of the heavy loads of debris which collected on them. A gantry had been constructed on the top of the cofferdam to take the electric motors and pump to pump out the cofferdam as soon as the flood subsided sufficiently. Electric cables were run out and attached to the tops of the reinforcing rods sticking out from the top of the cofferdam. The electric motors had been lifted to the top of the gantry out of the reach of the flood waters. Meanwhile, work proceeded on the excavation for the main foundation of the dam above flood level. The contractors called this end of the North Bank Cofferdam the Little Victoria Falls. The bridge across the Sanyati River to give access to the sand pits was also in danger of being washed away. The right bank abutment had been overtopped. And large amounts of debris collected against the open spans of the bridge. Fortunately, these were rolled under periodically and the spans remained intact, helped by the approach abutment being washed away. Our jeep was the last to cross. We carried out a flight over the Chobe swamps and up to the extensive Barotse plain as we wanted to find out if there was any spillage from the Zambezi River across into the Chobe catchment. Downstream at the Victoria Falls, the river was a raging torrent approaching the falls. The falls themselves on the north bank were a magnificent sight. As was the Devil's Cataract on the south bank. The rest of the falls could not be seen under the heavy blanket of spray. Above Devil's Cataract is a steep slope running down to the edge, and a large rock in the center causes a jet to leap up out of the water and over the edge, never touching the side again. By April, the flood waters had receded sufficiently for the pumps to be put into action to dewater the Cofferdam. And here you see all 4 pumps in operation. Rock was being dumped from the road bridge from side dumpers specifically designed for the purpose. The object was to form a rock-filled cofferdam with still water behind it from which pontoons could operate for the construction of the secondary cofferdam across the gap in the center of the river. Here at the model, it is proposed to show you how it all works. First, the North Bank Cofferdam is pumped dry, and the main dam built within, leaving undersluices. Then the upstream and downstream sections of the cofferdam are blasted away to let the water flow through the undersluices. Note the two bodies of water meeting in the cofferdam, the board travelling downstream, and the whirlpool which forms inside the cofferdam. Now everything is going to plan. The water is flowing through the undersluices and down the North Bank channel, which had been excavated. Note the standing wave which has formed across the channel just upstream of the bridge. At this stage, rock is dumped off the bridge to form the rock-fill cofferdam. Together with more rock-fill up the side to link it with the remains of the North Bank cofferdam. Finally, the central cofferdam is constructed across the gap to force all the water to flow through the South Bank diversion tunnel and the North Bank channel to enable the main dam to be constructed inside it. Now let us see the real thing. On the 6th of July 1987, at the dam site, tension has built up to fever pitch as everyone waits for the big blow. The upstream and downstream sections of the North Bank cofferdam have already been blasted down to just above water level. And there she goes. 6,200 pounds of high explosives in one blast. As the dust and smoke clear, you will see the two bodies of water come together inside the cofferdam in a positive maelstrom. A great bore of water travels down the North Bank channel. To give some idea of its size, the block of concrete on the far side stands about 10 feet out of the water. Now watch the bore hit it. Also of interest in these pictures are the dam offices and the positions of the two bridges, as you will see them again during the floods. As in the model, everything is now according to plan. The white tapes which you see on the far bank mark the outline of the dam for the benefit of Her Majesty the Queen Mother, who is due to fly over Kariba the following day. Construction in the works area on the north bank is proceeding well. The North Bank channel is operating as it should, with the standing wave lying just under the road bridge, as in the model. This crane was built on site entirely out of piping. It was to cover construction of the central cofferdam, to transport any equipment and materials to wherever it was required. Side tipping off the bridge continues for the rock-filled dam. I was trying to get a really big rock going over the side, and like all photographers' luck, when I did get it, I ran out of film. Sheet piling was used to form cells of the central cofferdam below water, each 30 foot long and 20 foot wide. These were then filled with concrete. At this time, as the consultants were worried about the flow through the South Bank diversion tunnel, a gauging was done from the bank using an Anderson lazy gauger. Here is a general view of the site in September, with the large crane completed and operating. The cells in the cofferdam were drilled through and grouted to attach the cofferdam to bedrock. Downstream, you can see the water flowing the North Bank Channel, and on the